Hello students, this is Mrs. Miller, and today we are going to be finishing up the text analysis workshop. Okay, we're going to walk through some of it together, and you'll be pushing pause on the video to give yourself time to respond to the questions. Here we go. I'm on page 195 in the textbook, or if you're working from home, you can go to the online classroom and the pages are right there for you, or you can also use the online textbook. So in a previous video we talked about characterization and the methods of characterization. The next couple of pages of our text analysis workshop walks us through each of those methods. The first method is physical appearance. In this fable, three princes compete for the love of a princess named Meliversa. As you read, look for descriptions of Meliversa's appearance from the Fable of the Three Princes. That night there was a great feast, and the three princes were the guests of honor. The emperor, seated on a splendid throne at the head of the table, greeted them. Next to him was the princess Meliversa, and she was indeed as beautiful as the sun. Her hair was long and the color of corn silk. Her eyes were blue and reminded everyone of the sky on a bright spring day. Her features were perfectly regular and her skin was flawless, but her eyes were empty and her face was expressionless. Okay, so we are already getting to know the princess based on her physical appearance. The close read question here says this: find three details that describe Meliversa's beauty. One detail has been boxed. So this detail here, she was as beautiful as the sun. That is a physical appearance. That's how she looks. She's as beautiful as the sun. So your task is to find two more details, and then you are going to write out your answer. You're going to restate the question and answer the question and use those details in your answer. Question number 2 says reread line 8. Well, this is line 5 right here. 6, here's line 8. This last sentence right here. It says, but her eyes were empty and her face was expressionless. What do you learn about Meliversa from this description? Well, you're going to have to infer an answer. You're going to have to say what you're able to figure out about Meliversa, and then this is your detail to support your answer. And then of course you can use information from your background knowledge bag as well. So you can push pause on the video and go ahead and respond to questions 1 and 2. Don't forget to restate the question, answer the question, and use details from the text to support your answer. The second method of characterization is speech and actions. It says writers may use dialect to convey information about the community in which a character lives. Dialect is a form of language spoken in a particular place by a particular group of people. It features unique pronunciations and vocabulary. The narrator in Jeremiah's song uses informal speech and grammar. Read the following passage aloud to hear the dialect. This is from Jeremiah's song. I knowed my cousin Ellie was gonna be mad when Macon Smith come around to the house. She didn't have no use for Macon, even when things were going right, and when Grandpa Jeremiah was fixin' to die, I just knowed she wasn't gonna be liking him hanging around. Grandpa Jeremiah raised Ellie after her folks died, and they used to be real close. Then she got to go on to college, and when she come back the first year, she was different. She didn't want to hear all them stories he used to tell her anymore. Ellie said the stories wasn't true, and that's why she didn't want to hear them. So you can hear right off the bat that the dialect used, or the type of language used, is not standard English. This is a lot different than what you speak, but the way that you speak, but this helps us understand a particular place and a particular group of people. Okay, let's take a look at the close read questions. Read the boxed text aloud. Then restate the sentence using formal language. What do you learn about the characters from the writer's use of dialect? So this box here, I want you to read the boxed part aloud. That's in the red box. And then you need to restate the sentence using formal language or the way that we speak here at school. And then tell me, what are you able to figure out? What do you learn about the characters from the way the writer, the use of dialect here? Let's take a look at question number 2. Why do you think Ellie doesn't want to hear Grandpa Jeremiah's stories anymore? How might college have changed her? So you need to think through that. Use details from the text. You need to restate the question, answer the question, and use details from the text to support your answer. Let's go on to the third method of characterization, other characters. It says, in this excerpt, Cammie is listening to her cousin Patty Ann play the piano. As you read, notice how Cammie reacts to Patty Ann. This is from Cousins. She, Cammie, couldn't sit still. Being there with her cousin made her as angry as she could be. Good at everything, Cammie thought to Patty's back. In school, at home, at her piano, Miss Goody Goody. The music stopped abruptly. Patty Ann turned the page of a small notebook next to her music. The page was blank. She'd come to the end of her lesson. She closed the book. Closed her music books, too. She closed the piano top over the piano keys. To Cammie, everything she did was like chalk scraping on a blackboard. That's a very interesting phrase. It was like chalk scraping on a blackboard. Well, first of all, that's a simile. It's comparing everything Cammie does to chalk scraping on a blackboard. And we know the sound of chalk scraping on a blackboard is very, very annoying. So we can figure out some things about our character, Patty Ann, based on what Cammie is thinking. Question number 1. Does Cammie like Patty Ann? How can you tell? You need to restate the question, answer the question, and use details from the text to support your answer. Question number 2. Reread the boxed text. What impression of Patty Ann do you get from Cammie's reaction to her? So what are your feelings right now toward Patty Ann based on what Cammie says? You can push pause on the video and respond to these 2 questions. And finally, we come to our fourth and final method. It's the narrator's comments. Sometimes the narrator directly tells readers what a character is like. As you read this excerpt, think about how you would describe the soldier based on what the narrator tells you about him. This is from The King's Dragon. There was once a soldier who had fought long and hard for his king. He had been wounded in the war and sent home for a rest. Hup and 1, hup and 2. He marched down the long, dusty road using a crutch. He was a member of the Royal Dragoons. His red and gold uniform was dirty and torn, and in the air of the winter's day his breath plumed out before him like a cloud. Hup and 1, hup and 2. Wounded or not, he marched with a proud step, for the Royal Dragoons were the finest soldiers in the land, and they always obeyed orders. Let's take a look at the close read questions. Look at the narrator's comments in the boxed sentences. Which word would you say does not describe the soldier? Loyal, lazy, or proud? Which word does not describe him? I want you to restate the question, answer the question, and use details from the text to support your answer. Very important. You go back to the text and use details to support your answer. And question 2. Does the narrator seem to respect the soldier? Explain your answer. Restate the question, answer the question, and then use details from the text to support your answer. We will be going over the answers to these text analysis questions in class.